Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of For the Classical Guitarist. My name is John, and in this video I want to take a quick second just talk to you about some books that I think all guitar players should be pretty familiar with, and if not own and have them on their bookshelf like I do right over here. So let's get started. Now the first thing that I want to say is the books on this list are for guitar players that are more or less in the intermediate stage. You know, someone that's already gone through one and maybe two method books already, and they're ready to find some supplemental scales, techniques, or pieces to go on beyond what they've learned already. So the first book that I'm going to say, I think some people might disagree with, but I do want to put it in here anyway because I do think it is pretty essential for all guitar players to know about, and that would be the Segovia Diatonic Major and Minor Scales. Now, why I think this book is so important is because even though, yes, there might be better ways to practice some of these scales, it's pretty standard, and honestly, it does a pretty good job of showing you different positions, how to shift, giving you different right-hand finger combinations, and it also has you playing up on the upper frets for even some of the earlier scales. So the next book that I'm going to put on this list is one that I think all classical guitar players probably have. If you don't have it, go out and buy it right now. Close out the video and just go buy it. And that would be Scott Tennant's Pumping Nylon. And why I think that this is so important is because it has things for pretty much a player of every single level. Whether you're an advanced player or if you're just a more advanced student, just getting into the habit of building up good techniques in your left hand and your right hand, this book is going to pretty much do it all. Oh yeah, and I wanted to mention, if you guys are also a fan of arpeggios, another item that would be on this list, but it's not because it's in this book, would be the 120 Giuliani right hand arpeggios, which, like I said, you can find in Pumping Nylon, all 120 of them. So you get two books in one. So this next book is one that I think all guitar players should have something like this. I don't think you need to have this exact book, but something that takes care of this would be super essential. And yes, you can get it in Pumping Nylon, but having a book just for this is going to be even more helpful. And that would be a book on basic slur technique. The one that I want to talk about is going to be the Shearer Slur, Ornament, and Reach Development Technique book. And I think that book works super well for this just because it's a book only focusing on these things and does a pretty good job of telling you how to do these things as well. So definitely check it out. You never know when slur is going to come up in your music or when you're going to want to refinger something to possibly have slurs in it to make the passage easier. So having your slurs in check is going to be super helpful and important. Now, the next few books that I'm going to mention are going to be more like repertoire or technique books that have studies in them, not necessarily technique like isolated techniques such as slurs. And the first one that I want to talk about is Back to Segovia, would be the Sor studies, but the Segovia edition. Segovia renumbered them in a way that I think kind of makes sense. I don't think it's perfect, but it does make sense to have them in this collection because it does something for each technique. Whether you're trying to balance your chords by using Segovia Sor study number 1, or maybe you're trying to balance melody with accompaniment and you want to use source study number 5, or maybe you want something that has the melody in the bass and you have an accompaniment in the top. Either way, this book is going to have a study that takes care of one of these things each individually, and that's what makes this so great. So definitely go ahead, check this book out if you don't have it already, and yeah, just look through it, find the technique that you want to work on, and you should be set. So the next book of studies is one that I'm pretty sure everyone is pretty familiar with, but that's exactly why I need to include it on here, and that would be the 20 Leo Brouwer studies. These studies are great, and honestly, I kind of like them a little bit more than the Sor, even though they're not as structured in terms of the techniques they work on. I think musically they work just a lot better, and they make a nice little set if you want to do only a few of them. Like any study, they really focus on a certain technique that the player needs to work on. And the other thing that I like about all of them is that they're just long enough. They're not so short that they feel like some boring exercise that you're doing just to get yourself warmed up, but they're not too long. They start to feel like a long piece that people are going to get bored by. Before you know it, the piece is done, and you work on some part of your technique. Now, finally, if you're a guitar player who's just looking to hopefully find some new music to play, what I would recommend for you to do would be check out the Pumping Nylon Repertoire series. And they come in 2 volumes, the early to intermediate or the intermediate to advanced. Not only does Scott Tennant put some great pieces in this book, but he actually organizes it better than I think anybody else does. He has a little checklist in the beginning that shows you what piece is going to be using which techniques and more or less where you should be in each piece. This is super helpful if you want to find a piece that's using a technique that you're working on. Anyway, if you're still watching, thank you so much for watching my video, and I just have one question for you. What are some books that you think should be on every guitar player's bookshelf, whether it's a collection of pieces, whether it's a technique book, or anything above, such as a book just even about guitar? Either way, let me know in the comments down below because I'd love to hear what you guys think. If you want to see more classical guitar videos, go ahead and check some of my videos down below, and if you're new here, consider subscribing to be updated about future videos. I want to keep this video a little bit shorter and to the point, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys in a future video.